Since then, the first time I arrived unprepared in Vietnam, culture shock. Had a good success in my project, yes, but at a very expensive price, and I'll elaborate later about what was unique about leadership in Vietnam. But since then, I've made a few moves, and I've become wiser. And companies in the last 20 years have become wiser about sending expatriates to different countries. Now, many of you will join companies. At some point, you'll get the opportunity to go out. Unfortunately, not all companies get the problem diagnosis correct. What am I saying? Sometimes a company, multinationals especially, have a problem in a specific country. They diagnose the cause and they decide, okay, this is a leadership problem, it's a skills problem, it's an expertise problem, and they assign the solution being, let's bring an expatriate. We pay him a lot of money, we give him huge benefits, make him feel like a king, drop him here, and he's going to do a quick fix. He's going to wave his hand and all our problems are going to disappear. Now, the diagnosis of problems and assigning of expatriates is a different discussion, more academic discussion. However, what companies nowadays do, even when they do the diagnosis wrong, meaning they send an expat to somewhere where they don't need one, firstly, or they send an expat to somewhere where they do need one. But companies nowadays do more homework in preparing you for what is waiting. So if you join a multinational and they send you to another country, they will give you cultural sensitivity training. They'll give you cultural documentation. They'll give you booklets telling you the manners and what is good to do and what's not to do, what's considered appropriate, what's not appropriate. They make the effort to sensitize you before they send you. However, therein lies, in my own experience, a very big flaw. As Dr. Hock earlier mentioned about culture. Culture is identified by country, by nation. But in reality, culture is very granular. It's micro-cultures within one country. You can have a general perception about a country's culture from information you get online, available data to you. But the day, for example, you are in Dhaka, a week later, you are in Teknaf, then you are in Sylhet, Khulna, Barishal, Ustia, different places, you start realizing that there are microcultures within each culture. Which means the concept of cultural sensitivity as a leader is even more complicated than you thought. If you think you are jumping into a hot pot of water, you realize you passed the pot and you jumped into the fire. So cross-cultural leadership takes an understanding not just of the broad culture, but the microcultures that operate within each country. It's a very sensitive and a very dangerous subject if you do it wrong. Now, if I can come back to Vietnam. The first day, I saw two reactions in the group. When we started our work, fight and flight, the two responses. Some of us wanted to fight and tackle the challenge, and others wanted to run away. Now, if you're as a leader that crosses boundaries, you arrive in a new country, you've been prepared, you've done your homework, you've been sensitized on the culture, I promise you, within your first 48 hours, you will experience that fight or flight response. You're going to think to yourself, I am in trouble, I don't understand where I am, the language is a problem, certain things in the culture I find offensive, or some things in my culture is offending people around me, and you get to the point where you say, no, this is not for me, let me run. So fight or flight is a very instinctive thing that happens when you cross cultures. of the key challenges of being a cross-cultural leader is the fundamentals of leadership that remains the same across cultures. Now, for those of you who watched my speech in Barishal a few weeks ago, you'll find it on YouTube, Robert West, but listen to it. There are 7 fundamentals of leadership that basically defines, in my view and my experience, how leadership is built and how leadership is maintained. Those things don't change whether you're in Bangladesh, whether you're in China, whether you're in the US, you're in Russia, it doesn't matter. Certain fundamentals remain the same. It's like gravity. You know, in Bangladesh, if I drop an egg, it falls on the floor and it breaks, right? What happens if I'm in South Korea? I drop the egg, falls on the floor and it breaks. It's a fundamental principle, it doesn't change. But there are some dynamics that change. Now, what are those principles? Just to recap for you. Leadership, firstly, is about building relationships. You have to foster and build relationships around you. You must have the ability to inspire people. You must build trust from the beginning. Trust is important. Without trust, there's no relationship. Sorry, hold myself. Without trust, there's no relationship and no inspiration can happen. 4th, you have to create more leaders. As a leader, your job is not to create more followers. That's what Facebook and Instagram is for. You want more followers there, but in real life, you need to create more leaders as a leader. You have to express your humanity. You have to be human, meaning not afraid to say, I'm sorry. Not afraid to say, I don't know. And not afraid to ask other people's inputs and opinions. You don't know everything. So being human is a requirement. Number 6, you need to accept that you cannot make everybody happy. As a leader, if you want to make everybody happy, don't go into leadership, don't go into management. Sell ice cream. Because as a leader, you're going to upset people. If you go left, those who wanted you to go right will hate you, and vice versa. It's not about keeping everybody happy, and it's impossible, no matter which country you go to. And in the end, there are some sciences that we can learn leadership skills. And those leadership skills that we teach ourselves, you can apply across cultures. Now, understanding the principles of leadership remain the same, and you place yourself in a position, you have just arrived in a country you've never been to before, you have some academic knowledge that you read from documents that have been given to you, you've read on the internet, you've watched some videos on YouTube, and the first day you arrive, you realize that to apply those 7 principles, the dynamics have changed. Why? Imagine building relationships. Give an example. South African arriving in Vietnam in 2004. Right? Where I came from, I had network. I had people who knew me. I had people who trusted me. I had a team below me that worked very closely with me and responded well to me. My first few months in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City, was a blur of noise and language and hot, sweaty streets that I don't remember much. But it was a simple project, a very black and white project, executed and completed. Not a leadership role, I was a worker in the street. When the project finished and the country director sat me down and said, I want you to take over Da Nang, Central Vietnam, 10 provinces. I want you to go there and take over, head the business for us there. Wow, what a compliment. I felt like a king. First night, my boss told me, you may think you are the king of the castle, but you know nothing. What did I do in my first month, 2 months, 3 months? I nearly killed myself. I found myself screaming, shouting, cursing, making an absolute fool of myself in the streets. Nobody understood English those days. English was very limited. Today it's very common. I had an assistant, Mr. Hume. I have a huge amount of respect for Mr. Hume. He went everywhere with me, and I would be giving instructions, and I'd come back a day later and the instructions weren't followed. And me being a hothead, I explode. I'm screaming and fighting and pointing and shouting and threatening, and there the guys are standing like this. And after I'm shouting, my translator or my assistant will calmly, casually transfer the message to the guy. And I'll think, I want to strangle you. Why you are not carrying over the passion? Then, the more passionate I got, the less cooperation I got. Until one day, and there's a photograph where I'm sitting on a sidewalk, flat on my backside on the sidewalk, thinking, this is it. I give up. I don't know. And that's the point when I realized something that I missed about Vietnamese. Firstly, Vietnam never lost a war in their history, including the most powerful war machine on this planet, the United States of America. The US made war there from the 1940s till 1970s, and they ran away on helicopters out of Ho Chi Minh City, being chased by Uncle Ho and his people. You ask yourself why? They were carpet bombing the forests. They were destroying railway lines. They were destroying every infrastructure, yet the Vietnamese kept on bouncing back. You go and dig and you visit the War Museum and you listen a bit and you see there's a railway bridge that carries materials and goods. The Air Force would bomb the bridge. The goods won't stop flowing. You know what the Vietnamese would do? Hundreds, if not thousands of them with bicycles will load the same goods and push them through the jungle. The train continued, it just looked differently. And then I realized something that was very unique about Vietnam. It's a saying in Vietnam, and my apologies if I don't quote it correctly. Like I said, I'm not an academic. But it goes something like this. The Vietnamese are very much like bamboo. You know the bamboo plant? You go and you find a bamboo and you try and bend it over, try and break it. What happens? You will push against that bamboo, you'll exert every force you have, and maybe you'll get it to a point and you'll get tired and you let it go to take a breath and the bamboo is back up. And the harder you push on that bamboo, the more energy you expend, and the more it just bends and comes back. That day I realized I turned myself into a foreign invader in Da Nang. I arrived with blazing guns trying to overpower the population. They looked at me and said, just another foreign invader. He will push us, he'll get tired, and he will leave. And when he leaves, life goes on. Bye-bye. At that moment, I got my first profound learning on leadership across cultures. Firstly, you cannot fight the culture that is there. Secondly, as a leader, you don't necessarily have to adopt the culture that is there. Because if you're a leader, your job is creating culture. Your job is creating something new, not just jumping on a horse and riding it for a few years and leaving. That's not why you are brought there. You are brought to bring change. So what you as a leader in a cross-cultural situation need to do is once you understand the dynamic of the culture, you join forces with it. You embrace it and you use what you can in order to build a new culture that goes in the direction you want it to go. It's not about coming in, copy and paste, and now I'm a Vietnamese. I can never be Vietnamese. I can never be Bengali. But as a cross-cultural leader, you need to learn to fit in but not give in to the culture and use the culture and your own experience to change it and move it in a way you want. Remember, the purpose of leadership is to change direction. We have two kinds of leadership, transitional and transformational. Right now in Bangladesh, as CEO of Upper Wundam, I'm in a transformational leadership position. I'm expected to transform and change the business. So I cannot stay with the existing culture. I must change the culture. But trying to change the culture like I learned in Vietnam is not possible unless you start using that bamboo in your favor. Get it on your side. Start using the strength of that bamboo. And you know what? Today, I'm still in contact with most of the team that I had in Vietnam in 2004 are still with Coca-Cola Vietnam, and most of them are still in Da Nang. They're very loyal people. And I'm still friends with them. Because once I embrace them as compatriots, companions, work with me instead of me trying to force them in the direction, we managed to make history. We managed to change things.